Chosen one, listen carefully, because this message isn't random. If you found this, it's because something deep inside you is already waking up. There was a moment, maybe recently, maybe not long ago, when everything around you started collapsing at once. Pressure hit you from every side. People turned on you. Doors closed without explanation. And the weight, it felt heavier than anything you had ever carried before. That was not coincidence. That was a calculated moment. The enemy studied your patterns. He watched your strength. He saw your calling forming before you even fully understood it yourself. And then he made a decision. Now, this is where they quit, because the enemy doesn't waste attacks on people who are ordinary. He targets the ones marked for impact. He targets the ones chosen. You. The plan was simple. Overwhelm you. Exhaust you. Break your spirit quietly so no one would notice. Make you question yourself. Make you doubt your purpose, make you feel isolated enough to believe, maybe I'm not meant for this after all. But here's what they didn't expect. You didn't quit. Even when you were tired, you kept going. Even when you were confused, you kept seeking. Even when you felt alone, something inside you refused to shut down. That something is not normal strength. That is divine resilience. That is what happens when your life is not just your own. When it is aligned with a purpose that heaven refuses to let die. Right now, pause for a second. If you've ever felt like you were pushed to your limit but still standing, this is your confirmation. You are not surviving by accident. You are being sustained for a reason. And if this message is hitting you deeply, don't ignore it. Take a moment right now, like this video and comment, "I didn't quit" below. There's power in declaring it. There's power in showing that you're still here, still standing, still chosen. And if this message speaks to your spirit in a real way, consider hitting that super thanks, not just as support, but as a sign that you're investing in the message that's helping you stay aligned with your purpose. Now listen, the enemy miscalculated something critical about you. He thought pressure would crush you, but pressure revealed you. He thought isolation would weaken you, but isolation refined you. He thought confusion would stop you, but confusion forced you to seek deeper truth. What he meant for destruction became your transformation. And this is where it gets serious, because the moment you didn't quit, you shifted the entire battle. Now you're no longer the target that's about to fall. You're the one who survived the test. You're the one who saw the darkness and didn't become it. You're the one who kept your heart when everything tried to harden it. That's rare. That's powerful. That's chosen. But understand this. Surviving was only the beginning. Because what comes next is something the enemy fears even more than your strength. Your awareness. And once a chosen one becomes aware of who they truly are, everything changes. If you're ready, we're about to go deeper. Now that you understand you didn't quit by accident, you need to see the next layer clearly. What you went through was not random chaos. It was targeted. There was intention behind the confusion you faced. There was strategy behind the people who walked away. There was a reason certain doors shut right when you were getting close. None of it was careless. None of it was meaningless. It was assigned pressure. Because when a chosen one begins to rise, even quietly, there is a reaction in the unseen. The enemy doesn't wait until you're fully walking in your purpose. He tries to stop you while you're still becoming it. That's why the attacks felt so personal. Think about it. Why did the betrayal come from people you trusted the most? Why did the discouragement hit hardest when you were actually making progress? Why did the confusion show up right when you started asking deeper questions about your life? It's because the enemy knew something about you that you were only beginning to discover. You are not ordinary. You carry something that disrupts darkness, and the earlier that gets stopped, the better for the enemy. So the plan wasn't just to hurt you. The plan was to mislead you, to make you believe that your struggle meant you were off track, when in reality, it was proof you were on the right path. Let that sink in. The resistance you felt was not a sign to turn back. It was confirmation that you were moving forward. But here's where most people lose the battle. They misinterpret the pressure. They assume, if it's this hard, maybe it's not meant for me. And that thought right there, that's the trap. Because the enemy doesn't need to destroy you completely if he can just convince you to step away from your calling. He only needs you to doubt long enough to disconnect. But you didn't. Even if you slowed down, you didn't stop. Even if you questioned, you didn't walk away completely. Even if you felt lost, something in you kept searching. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. There's a reason why, despite everything, You're still drawn to messages like this. There's a reason your spirit won't settle for surface-level living. There's a reason you feel like there's more to your life than what you've seen so far. That's because your assignment is still active. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Chosen ones often go through the most confusion before clarity. Why? Because confusion forces separation. It pushes you away from the noise, away from the crowd, away from everything that isn't truly aligned with who you are becoming. It strips away false identities. It removes distractions. It isolates you, not to harm you, but to prepare you. And yes, it feels uncomfortable, but it's necessary, because you cannot step into a higher calling with a divided mindset. So everything that tried to break you was actually working to reveal you. Everything that left your life made space for what's meant to stay. Everything that didn't work out redirected you to what will. The enemy thought pressure would end your journey, but all it did was position you for the next phase. And in that next phase, something begins to shift inside you. You stop reacting the same way. You stop chasing the same things. You stop needing the same validation. You begin to see, and once a chosen one starts seeing clearly, they become dangerous to everything that once controlled them. Because now, you're not just surviving the attack. You're starting to understand it. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey where something quietly changes, not around you, but within you. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no loud announcement, no instant transformation that the world can see. But internally, something clicks. The same pressure that once made you feel like you were falling apart no longer has the same power over you. This is the shift. This is the moment the enemy never saw coming. Because up until now, the attacks were working on an older version of you, the version that was still unsure, still seeking validation, still trying to hold everything together in a way that made sense. But something happened through everything you endured. You started letting go. You stopped trying to control every outcome. You stopped chasing people who couldn't recognize your worth. You stopped forcing doors that clearly weren't opening. And in that release, you created space. Space for clarity. Space for growth. Space for truth. Now here's what's powerful about this stage. You didn't become stronger by avoiding pain. You became stronger because of it. Every moment you thought you were breaking was actually reshaping you. Every setback was realigning your direction. Every disappointment was sharpening your discernment. You're not reacting the same anymore, are you? Things that used to trigger you don't hit the same. Situations that once drained you, you now walk away from faster. People who once had access to your energy no longer do. That's not you becoming distant. That's you becoming aware. And awareness is dangerous to anything that once had control over you. Because once you see clearly, you can't be manipulated the same way again. This is why the enemy's strategy starts to fail at this stage. Before, confusion worked. Before, emotional overwhelm worked. Before, isolation felt like weakness. But now, confusion pushes you to seek truth. Emotional pressure pushes you to grow. Isolation becomes your place of strengthening. Do you see the difference? The same weapons are being used, but they're no longer effective. Why? Because you're no longer the same person they were sent to break. And here's something you need to understand deeply. This shift is not just personal growth. This is spiritual elevation. This is the point where you begin to walk differently. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger in a way that can't be taken from you. There's a quiet confidence forming in you now. Not loud, not arrogant, but solid. You're no longer desperate for answers. You're patient with the process. You're no longer shaken by every obstacle. You're observing, learning, adjusting. You're no longer trying to prove yourself. You're becoming yourself. And that right there, that's power. Because the enemy can only control what you don't understand. But now you're starting to understand. You're starting to recognize patterns. You're starting to see through distractions. You're starting to feel what's aligned and what's not. And once that awareness locks in, everything begins to change. This is the moment where the one who almost quit becomes the one who cannot be easily shaken. The one who once doubted becomes the one who discerns. The one who once felt lost begins to walk with direction. But don't get comfortable just yet, because with this shift comes a new level of responsibility. Now that you're becoming aware, you're going to be tested differently, not to break you, but to confirm you. Now that you've stepped into awareness, the journey doesn't slow down. It intensifies, but in a different way. Before, the attacks were loud, obvious, chaotic. You could clearly feel when something was wrong. But now the tests become more subtle, more precise, more personal. Why? Because you're no longer in the stage of being shaken. You're in the stage of being proven. And there's a difference. At this level, it's no longer about whether you can survive pressure. It's about whether you can stay aligned when things look right but feel wrong. This is where many people get confused again, because the next tests don't always come disguised as pain. Sometimes they come disguised as opportunities, as relationships, as quick success, as things that seem like answers to your prayers but carry the wrong spirit. And this is where your discernment is tested. Can you say no to something that looks good but isn't meant for you? Can you walk away from something comfortable because you know it's not aligned with your calling? Can you trust what you feel internally, even when it doesn't make logical sense? This is a deeper level of discipline, because earlier it was easier to recognize what wasn't for you. It came with obvious signs: hurt, confusion, betrayal. But now, the wrong things won't always hurt at first. They might feel good. They might look right. They might even seem like progress. But chosen ones don't just move based on what looks good. They move based on what is right. And this is exactly where the enemy tries one last strategy. If he can't break you through pain, he will try to distract you through comfort. He'll send things that almost match your purpose, but not completely. He'll create situations that keep you busy but not fulfilled. He'll offer you paths that bring temporary satisfaction, but long-term misalignment, because if he can't stop you, he'll try to delay you. But here's what's different now. You're not the same person who would fall for that. There's a sensitivity in your spirit now, a quiet check inside you that says something about this isn't right. And when you listen to that voice, you protect your path. This is why it's critical not to ignore what you feel in this season, because your discernment is sharper than ever. That hesitation you feel, it's not fear, it's awareness. That lack of peace, it's not confusion, it's direction. That pull away from certain people or situations, it's not isolation, it's protection. You're being guided, but guidance only works when you trust it. And this is the test. Will you trust what God is showing you internally, even when everything externally looks appealing? Because your next level is not unlocked by effort alone. It's unlocked by alignment. And alignment requires obedience, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't make sense to others, even when it means walking alone for a while, even when it requires letting go of something you thought was meant for you. This is where your strength becomes refined into wisdom. You're no longer just enduring the journey. You're navigating it with intention. And every right decision you make here, every time you choose alignment over comfort, you are building something powerful. Spiritual authority, the kind that cannot be faked, the kind that cannot be taken, the kind that comes only from passing tests that no one else sees. So don't rush this phase. Don't ignore the signs, because every decision you make right now is shaping the level you're about to step into. Something begins to happen when you stop chasing and start aligning. It's subtle at first. You notice certain things no longer require the same struggle. Situations that once felt blocked begin to move with less resistance. Conversations become clearer. Decisions feel lighter. And doors that once seemed impossible to open, start opening without you forcing them. This is not luck. This is alignment. Because when a chosen one starts walking in true alignment, life doesn't become perfect, but it becomes ordered. And there's a difference. Before, you were trying to make things happen through effort alone. You were pushing, striving, overthinking, trying to piece everything together manually. But now, you're moving differently. You're listening more. You're forcing less. You're trusting what feels right instead of chasing what looks right. And because of that, things are starting to meet you where you are. This is what the enemy hoped you would never reach. A place where you are no longer reacting to life, but responding with clarity. Because once you reach this level, manipulation becomes difficult. Distractions lose their grip. Confusion loses its power. Fear loses its voice. Not because those things disappear, but because they no longer control your decisions. You're operating from a different place now. A place of inner stability. And from that place, something powerful begins to unfold. Divine timing. You start to notice that the right people come into your life at the right moment. Not too early, not too late. Conversations happen that answer questions you didn't even ask out loud. Opportunities appear that match not just your desires, but your purpose. It feels orchestrated, because it is. But here's where you need to stay grounded. Alignment doesn't mean everything will always feel easy. It means everything will make sense in its time. There will still be moments where you don't fully understand what's happening. There will still be delays that test your patience. There will still be situations that require faith over logic. But the difference now is this: you don't panic in those moments. You observe. You trust that if something is delayed, there's a reason. If something is removed, it's making space. If something doesn't work out, it's redirecting you. You're no longer interpreting every obstacle as a setback. You're seeing it as part of the setup. And that shift in perspective is what keeps you aligned, because alignment is not just about what you do, it's about how you see. Now let's talk about something deeper. When you stay aligned long enough, you begin to notice that not everything, and not everyone, can go with you. Some connections naturally fade. Some environments start to feel out of place. Some habits no longer resonate with who you're becoming. And this can feel uncomfortable, because growth often requires separation. But understand this clearly. You are not losing what matters. You are releasing what no longer aligns. And that release is necessary, because the level you're stepping into requires clarity, focus, and space. Space for the right connections. Space for the right opportunities. Space for the version of you that is still unfolding. And as that space opens up, something else begins to happen. You start to be recognized differently. Not by everyone, but by the right ones. People who can see your value without you having to explain it. Opportunities that match your energy without you having to chase them. Situations that feel natural instead of forced. This is what happens when you stop trying to prove yourself and start being yourself. But don't get distracted by this phase either, because recognition is not the destination. It's a sign that you're moving correctly, a sign that you're aligned. A sign that you're stepping into what was already prepared for you. At this stage, something shifts that you can't hide anymore. It's not just about what you're going through, it's about what you carry. There's a weight to your presence now, a depth that wasn't there before. People may not even understand it fully, but they feel it. The way you speak, the way you respond, the way you move, it's different, not louder, just real. And that kind of presence naturally creates influence. You're not trying to lead. You're not forcing attention. But somehow people begin to watch you more closely. They listen when you speak. They notice how you handle situations. They come to you for advice, even when you don't feel like you have all the answers. That's not random. That's the result of everything you've been through. Because influence is not built by perfection. It's built by authenticity tested through pressure. Every challenge you faced refined your voice. Every moment you endured deepened your understanding. Every time you chose growth over bitterness strengthened your character. And now that transformation is visible. This is what the enemy was trying to stop from the beginning. Not just your progress, but your impact. Because a chosen one who understands their journey doesn't just change their own life. They begin to shift the environment around them. You bring clarity into confusion. You bring calm into chaos. You bring truth into spaces where people have been operating in illusion. And that can make some people uncomfortable. Let's be real about this. Not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some people preferred the version of you that was unsure, quiet, easier to control, easier to overlook. But now that you've stepped into awareness, now that you're moving with intention, they don't know how to relate to you the same way, and that's okay. You're not here to stay small so others feel comfortable. You're here to walk in truth, even if it challenges people. But with influence comes responsibility, because now it's not just about you anymore. People are watching how you handle pressure. They're observing how you respond to negativity. They're learning from how you carry yourself in situations where most would fall apart. And whether you realize it or not, you're setting an example. That's why staying grounded is critical at this level, because influence without alignment can lead to distraction. It can pull you into trying to please everyone. It can tempt you to perform instead of remain authentic. It can create pressure to always appear strong, even when you're still growing. But here's the truth. You don't need to be perfect to have impact. You just need to stay real. Stay aligned with what got you here in the first place. Stay connected to your purpose. Stay aware of the journey that shaped you, because the same authenticity that built your influence is what will sustain it. Now let's go even deeper. As your influence grows, you'll begin to notice something else. Your presence starts to expose things, not intentionally but naturally. People's true intentions become clearer around you. Situations that once seemed stable start revealing cracks. Environments that were built on false foundations begin to feel uncomfortable. Why? Because truth disrupts illusion. And when you carry truth, you can't help but reveal what's not aligned with it. This is why some people may distance themselves. This is why certain doors may close suddenly. This is why you may outgrow spaces that once felt normal. It's not because something is wrong with you. It's because something is right. You're operating at a frequency that no longer matches certain environments. And instead of shrinking to fit, you're being called to rise fully into who you are. This is where your influence becomes intentional. You're no longer just impacting people by accident. You're starting to understand the responsibility of what you carry. Now we arrive at the culmination of your journey so far. Every trial, every test, every moment that made you question your strength or your purpose has led you here. And the truth is simple but profound. You are not here by accident. You are chosen. You are appointed. You are marked for a purpose that the enemy tried and failed to stop. At this stage, you begin to understand that being chosen is not about privilege. It's about responsibility. It's about being entrusted with a life that carries influence, truth, and transformation. It's about walking with integrity when no one is watching. It's about making decisions that align with divine purpose rather than human comfort. You've endured what many would have crumbled under. You've faced attacks designed to break your spirit and distractions meant to derail your destiny. Yet here you are, stronger, wiser, and more aware. Every challenge, every setback, every betrayal was preparing you for this moment, to rise fully into the identity that was always yours. And now a key reality becomes clear. The enemy's attempts to stop you were never stronger than the power that was placed in you before the foundation of the world. The same power that sustained you through the darkest moments. The same power that gave you insight in confusion. And the same power that sharpened your discernment in the face of deception is still with you. You are not just surviving, you're evolving. But stepping into your identity requires more than recognition. It demands commitment. It demands that you fully embrace your purpose, even when it feels overwhelming. It requires courage to continue in the face of unseen battles. It demands patience when doors seem slow to open and faith when the path is unclear. The chosen one does not operate by sight alone. They operate by conviction, by spiritual awareness, and by trust in the plan that is greater than any obstacle they have faced. At this stage, you begin to recognize that your influence has expanded. People, opportunities, and circumstances are aligning with your purpose in ways that were impossible before. The same pressures that once sought to break you now serve to highlight your resilience and authority. You begin to see patterns, understand timing, and discern alignment with clarity. Every decision is sharper, every relationship is measured, and every step is intentional. Yet there is a humbling truth. The journey of the chosen one never truly ends. Growth, testing, and refinement continue, but now with purpose rather than chaos. You are not just enduring trials. You are navigating them with wisdom. You are not just facing opposition. You are overcoming it with spiritual authority. You are not just surviving life. You are mastering the way you move through it. So now look at yourself and say, I am chosen. I am appointed. I am here for a reason beyond myself. Every attack, every setback, every dark moment was a preparation, not punishment. Every closed door, every disappointment, every betrayal was a setup for what is coming. The enemy thought you would quit, but you didn't. You persisted. You aligned. You grew. You are emerging as the one who cannot be shaken, who cannot be deceived, and who cannot be stopped. And this is your final confirmation. The moment you accept your identity as the chosen one, the moment you walk fully in alignment with your purpose, heaven and the forces of destiny itself begin to recognize your authority. Your path becomes undeniable. Your influence becomes unavoidable, and the enemy's power over you is finally broken. You are no longer the one who almost quit. You are the one who fulfills your destiny. You are the chosen one,